Okay, I believe we're live on Facebook. Yay. Awesome. This is Faith Bickle from Medpace. Today we have for your employer spotlight. Faith, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Medpace?
Yeah, absolutely. I have been with Medpace for about a year and a half at this point. I work in human resources. I'm a human resource generalist with a specialty in recruitment. So I focus heavily on recruiting for a few of our different positions here at Medpace. So it's definitely a really neat opportunity to come speak with you guys today because I like to deal with a lot of these college age students.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you, obviously. Just a reminder for those who might be watching us live, please post your questions on this video and we'll have Faith answer them at the end of this Facebook Live. But first, I want to get into a little bit about MedPace and who MedPace is and what do you do. So if you can tell me a little bit about what MedPace does and where you're located.
Yeah, absolutely. So Medpace is what's called a CRO, which is a contract research organization, which basically means we're a clinical research organization. So we help perform clinical trials for these new therapeutic drugs, medical devices, or biotechnologies. We work throughout phases 1 through 4, which means we kind of see the whole trial throughout its cycle. So from the very beginning, once it's able to be tested on humans, all the way into submitting the drug to the FDA for final approval. So it's definitely really neat. We work within a lot of different therapeutic areas. Some of the main ones right now are like infectious diseases, oncology, hematology. I could go on, but I'll stop there for a few of them. Our headquarters is located in Cincinnati, Ohio. And then we have a few other offices in the US. We have one in Dallas, Texas, as well as one in Denver, Colorado, as well. And then we are also located in about 36 other countries outside the US as well.
Wow, that's pretty cool. It's a lot of opportunity for people to um, be a MedPace employee internationally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, what kind of jobs and internship opportunities does MedPace currently have open, and how do you apply for some of these?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are rapidly growing as a company to start with. I think last year we grew about 20%, and we've been growing around that rate for the last few years. So with that, constantly hiring and looking for good talent, there's the basic roles that every company has. So like accounting, um, finance, business development, marketing, and things like that. But since we are focusing in clinical research, we do have a lot of science based positions. So a few of them would be like a clinical research associate, a project coordinator, regulatory submissions. All of these fall within clinical research. They do a lot of different roles, I would say. Some are very hands on. So our CRA role is probably one of our most popular. You actually travel, it's a very traveling based position. You travel throughout the US and you're traveling to these different locations. So the hospital where these clinical trials are being conducted, um, and you're actually like reviewing the data from these documents. You are checking to make sure all these drugs are where they should be. They're stored properly. The patients who are enrolled in these studies should actually be enrolled in these studies. So exclusion, inclusion criteria. So it's definitely really interesting, I would say. Internship opportunities, I would say right now it's a little bit harder just due to COVID. We're kind of evaluating that on a day-to-day basis on how everything's going to look in the future for right now. But for the people who are interested in roles at MedPace, I would definitely recommend looking at our website, which is just medpace.com, and then /careers. And you can see a lot of the different opportunities we have available, as well as video testimonials from our current employees on these different positions. Learn a little bit more about clinical research since it is such a unique field. I know not a lot of
Mhm.
people don't understand or have a lot of background knowledge.
Awesome, thank you. Are there any future opportunities that you are anticipating that you may need to fill?
Well, that's a good question. I would say definitely since we are growing and we are still hiring. I know during COVID, a lot of companies are kind of putting on hold. We are still actively hiring, I would say. And all of our different locations are still trying to grow. We still are getting business coming in with these different trials. We are actually on a few COVID trials. So, with that, definitely need to keep growing and expanding. So I would say even within the next few months to keep an eye out, we're going to have a lot more positions open up, whether that be in our Cincinnati headquarters office or within our satellite offices throughout the US. Definitely a great time to join. We're growing pretty quickly still.
Yeah, that sounds awesome and a great opportunity to get involved with a company that's on the forefront of current events, right?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Awesome. So, what kind of experiences make your candidates a good fit? So, when you're looking at a resume, maybe from a student that's maybe a first time job out of school, what do you look for in that resume?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say first and foremost, it's going to sound probably pretty repetitive from anybody who's asked that before, is making sure there's no mistakes in your resume. So no grammar mistakes, spelling errors, or making sure it doesn't have, if you've sent it to somebody and they put comments on it, make sure all of that is taken off before you submit that. Uh, Number one thing we see from new grads is we see those simple mistakes.
Mhm.
And while it's not a huge deal, it is something that shows maybe not as much attention to detail and things like that, to where hiring managers could frown upon it. But I think when I'm looking at a resume, things that really stand out um, are really experiences during college that show you're just not a student. So you're doing research, maybe even that's like bench research in a lab, or volunteering at a hospital. One thing, especially with a lot of our positions here, we do like to see a good mix of like that research component, as well as a clinical background of some sort. So whether that even be like just in a hospital, um, doing rounds, being a scribe, things like that, just getting you exposure to talking to doctors and nurses and things like that. I would say those are definitely key things we look for, as well as just a good GPA. We want to make sure that you are trying really hard in those studies and really showing us that you can balance a lot of different things at one time. So whether it is multiple jobs and school or whatever, we just want to see that you are doing more than just attending school, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Just a quick caveat question. What is a good GPA to you? I feel like I hear that all the time, and the questions I get from students are, what is a good GPA?
Yeah. I would say for at least Medpace specifically, we look for a minimum of a 3.0.
Okay, awesome.
Obviously, we prefer higher, just like anywhere else. But I would say a 3.0 shows that you're still academically challenged. You did hard work during your academic career. But we still understand you are human. Maybe your freshman year was a little rough, just like everybody else has a hard time adjusting sometimes. We understand that, but we want to make sure you still did pick back up and show that you could still work hard.
Awesome. So on the flip side, if you had a candidate have, say, like a 2.8, but they have like extensive experience, how do you view that candidate?
Yeah, I think we look at that on a case by case basis usually. So if they already have clinical research experience, sometimes that does overpower that GPA requirement. Or if they've been out of school for a while too, that's also something we take into consideration. Because since say they graduated 5, 10 years ago, their experiences are now more relevant than that degree they had at that point. So I'd say we take it definitely on a case by case basis, but we do try to look for both experience and good GPA as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Faith. So tell us a little bit about Medpace's company culture, and do you like personally working for Medpace?
Of course. uh, yeah, so I actually joined MedPace right out of college. It was my first big kid job necessarily. Uh, and I feel like when I was looking, I wanted to make sure I'd be a culture fit somewhere. Because everywhere you go, you're going to have to learn the ropes of a job. But I wanted to make sure I could grow within a company and feel very welcomed. I think that was something I was very nervous, just like most new grads are when they try to get a new job.
Sure.
Uh, but coming into MedPace, I would say the culture is very collaborative. It's one word we probably say all the time at MedPace, but it's so true. I think it's because clinical research is such a unique breed and such so different, um, that you kind of have to work together. I really enjoy that. I know when I come into work, if I have a project or there's a lot on my plate that day, if I need assistance, I can go to any one of my team members or anybody around me and I can be like, hey, I need assistance. Nobody's gonna look at you and be like, oh, I don't have time for you. They're gonna be like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, what can I do to help you? I think that's something I really appreciate. Everybody's kind of just drops whatever they're doing to help you out. So that's one thing that's so rare, I think, to find that I really
Hmm.
appreciate.
Hmm.
The other thing I would say with that is the growth opportunity at MedPace kind of fits in with the culture. Is every career path, when you start, you have a career path today, you start to, where you fall within this career path and what it takes to get to that next level. Which was something I thought was super odd, but great. So the day I walked in, I knew, okay, as long as you work really hard and you're meeting all your performance goals, you could be up for promotion within 6 months. And then after that, you're like, okay, the next month's in a year, but you have to be meeting this, this, and this. And then 5 years down the line, here are your options. So you're kind of seeing even when you first start, you're like, oh, well, I know I can get to here, and here's how I get to here. It's not just like, well, eventually you get there. It's more of a, what can we do to get you to your career goals kind of environment, I think, which is really neat and unique.
Yeah, that clear communication for promotion, I think, is a lot more important than I think even a lot of students realize. Just knowing that this is what I need to do to get, from point A to point B, that's really helpful. Awesome. And do you all have any, like, I don't know, cool amenities or benefits that you want to kind of plug here?
Yeah, sure, why not? So one of my favorite things, I think, the day I walked into Medpace for my interview, the buildings are all very new. Like the building I'm currently in just opened actually in the end of May. So top notch, everything is brand new. So you walk in, you're like, what did I just walk into? But besides that, we have 2 gyms on site, at least in our Cincinnati location, that are free to all employees to use, which is a huge perk because it saves you a lot of money, especially right as you're coming out of college. You don't have a lot of that. And it's because it's such a laid back environment. If you want to take your lunch break and you want to go work out for 30 minutes and then come back to work, you have that flexibility. They're fine with that. Um, as well as we do have a free lunch every day. Typically, it's just like a salad bar with different toppings. But that's been something else that saves a lot of money. And it's something you take for granted that you don't have to think about every morning, like, oh, what's for lunch today? Or where am I going to eat? Or where do I have to pack? It's more like, oh, okay, well, I'm having salad today.
Yeah.
As well as I think this one is probably a little odd, but it's my favorite, is the casual dress code. I think we're coming into your first like adult job after college. Everybody has that concept of, I'm going to wear a suit every single day. I will be in heels and dress pants, full suit every day. Oh no, not at MedPace. We wear jeans on an everyday basis. Gym shoes. It's so laid back. Our CEO walks around in jeans, gym shoes, and a t-shirt pretty much every single day.
That's awesome.
It kind of sets the tone with everybody. Our philosophy, as long as you can still be professional and carry yourself. I mean, obviously, please don't look like you're coming to the gym when you go to work, but they're very laid back, which is something that's really neat. And I think is a really great perk of working at MedPace.
That's awesome. Thanks, Faith. So what do you have, or excuse me, what advice do you have for students who are job or internship searching during the COVID-19 pandemic? That's a lot of questions that we're getting right now is,
Yeah.
What does that search look like? Or maybe how do I even list maybe internships that I was going to do this summer, but didn't get the opportunity to? So what advice do you have for students who are really job or internship searching right now in our current climate?
Of course. That's definitely a really good question with everything going on. I think the number one thing would be to be upfront with people and to be completely open and transparent when you are talking to, say, a recruiter or somebody in HR, and they're like, why didn't you have an internship this summer? Or I thought you didn't have anything lined up or something. Everybody knows this climate. It's not just a citywide thing. It's pretty global. So everybody understands if you're like, hey, I had something lined up. And of course, due to COVID, unfortunately, they had to rescind an offer. It's not uncommon. Nobody's going to look at that frowned upon. I would just take it as more of somebody's being upfront and honest from the get go instead of saying, oh, I don't know. And then maybe 2 interviews down the line, I hear, oh, well, COVID did this. I'm like, I would have rather known that up front.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the same thing is if they had a position and they were only there for maybe a week or two, and then they were let go due to COVID. Keep it on your resume. I understand you weren't there very long, but it's nothing to be ashamed of to even put in parentheses laid off due to COVID. We're going to understand. I think that's the main key to everything is just being as upfront as possible with everybody. And we get where you're coming from. Every company's been through it. Even most people know somebody who was affected by the situation. And definitely try to be persistent. I know that's probably something new grads are really hard about because I know I didn't want to be pushy. I was very like, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it. But I would say, like, if you're getting to that interview, make sure you're sending those emails immediately after, saying like, hey, I really appreciate you taking time out to speak with me. I know during this climate you're probably very busy, but I appreciate your time. As simple as an email of like a two-thing thing, I just appreciate it. It shows us like, hey, they recognize our time is valuable, and it's really hard right now for all of us to find time. Um, but I think that's something that sets you apart from other people. So if we still, maybe we have an internship lined up, and we're interviewing 5 candidates, and they all kind of have the similar background with COVID, and they're all struggling. If only one of those people sends me an email saying, hey, I appreciate you and the panel's time today. Let me know if there's anything else I can get you if you need references. To me, that shows they're very serious about the position. I automatically forward that to the hiring team as well. And I've had multiple managers go, that was appreciated. I really appreciate them taking time out of their day to let me know that they recognize time is valuable and they're willing to go above and beyond. I think that's definitely something as simple that can push it over so much.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Faith. That was really informative. And lastly, why do you like hiring our students, our UT students?
Yeah. So a little bit of background before I answer the question, so it makes sense.
Okay.
I actually went to Tennessee for 2 years before a few financial things happened. I had to move back home, but I know when I was there, the classes were so rigorous, the professors were so good, and I knew the education I got was so top notch. Even when I came to Medpace, we hadn't even really done a lot of recruitment at Tennessee because it is not necessarily near any of our main campuses. I was like, hey, like a lot of people go here. Like it's not just a Tennessee school. Like it's a good school. Everybody knows it. And I was like, and the quality of students you get is so great. It was worth it. And even we came down for your career fair in the spring before COVID hit, of course. Um, it was amazing to see the people come up to us like, oh, I haven't heard of you, but I'm actually from that area. Oh, I'm from Cincinnati. That's so amazing. And there were so many people who were like, oh, yeah, I'm totally interested in this. I didn't know this was an opportunity. So I think it was amazing to hear the opportunities that they had at Tennessee, whether that be through their schooling, their research they've done, for them to come to us and to be like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. I didn't know this was an option. It's a different kind of people we haven't reached out to before, and it's been so high quality of the students we've gotten in return.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thank you for that. Well, I think that's the end of my questions. I guess the last thing is I would like you to plug any opportunities that you have for our students and any maybe some last thoughts if you have any.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So we are, like I said, we are growing pretty quickly. So with that, we are doing recruitment events about every month, at least one, sometimes two. And right now they are virtual. So anywhere in the US, you can do them. So like I gave earlier, our website, medpace.com/careers. Keep an eye on those virtual events. That would be the number one way to even learn about all of the opportunities at Medpace. It's not necessarily just one position. We have so many. This we have our hiring managers come on. They present about their topics and their position and why they think it's such a good position. And then we do breakout rooms to where the students and the applicants can go into these different rooms and just ask all the questions they may have. Like, hey, what is this like? What's it like to travel that much? Or how does this work? And things like that. Um, I always say go to one of these because this you may think immediately when you look at our website, oh, I want to do this position. And then you go to these events and you're like, oh, I would have never thought of that. That fits me so much better. That's a better fit than what I'm looking for. So I would say whether that be MedPace or not, obviously I prefer if you look at MedPace, definitely consider all opportunities a company has because just because you think this is the role for you, there's probably others out there that might even be a better fit. So that's something I would definitely take into consideration when job searching, especially during these times.
Awesome. I am looking and I don't see any questions from the audience. So any last final thoughts before we sign off?
Um, I think my only thought would be definitely to reach out if you have any questions. I know you have my email. Feel free to share that with anybody who may have questions about clinical research or kind of what to get into the industry. I'd be more than happy to field any of that, especially during these times of COVID. I'd be more than happy to even look at CVs and tell you what I think would be ways to improve them or what HR people might frown upon, or ways to make them stand out more to an HR candidate when looking at them. So
Awesome. Thank you, Faith. That's very kind of you. And for any students watching today, my name is Katie Wiley and my email is kperry20@utk.edu. And if you just email me, I'll make sure that you get in contact with Faith and find out all the wonderful things about Medpace.
thank
Well,
you so
Faith,
much,
thank
Katie. I
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for showing up today. And I'm excited for any, future interactions we have.
Definitely. Me too.
Bye, Faith. Thank you.
Thank you.